So it's you and me and between drinks. So we'll move right into this.
We'll be brisk then.
No, we'll be very focused. We were chatting earlier and talking about the zero draft. Everyone's asking about the zero draft, and your response was, "What zero draft? What are you talking about? I'm not sure I understand."
I've got it here, short and concise.
We'll be handing out copies to everyone. So tomorrow there will be the big meeting, the multi-stakeholder meeting on AMR. It will obviously be key to ongoing preparations for the high-level meeting hosted by Malta and Barbados this fall. Today we've discussed R&D, innovation, access, and governance just now. Would love to, in the short period of time we have, talk about the importance of the role of each, and how, if we can kind of bring it home a little bit, how private and public sectors can collaborate to solve for those.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation, and thanks also to IFPMA for allowing me to come by and talk a little bit about this, given that I am not, unlike all of your previous guests, an expert on AMR. I'm just a grubby diplomat trying to help the 193 members of the UN find some consensus around this complicated issue. And I think you've heard what all of the issues are this evening and tomorrow, and I'm really looking forward to this. We're going to hear from some of you here and from others as well about what the stakeholders in this process have to say about this. What are their priorities? I'm encouraged that around the big issues that you've already be emerging some sort of broad consensus about what needs to be in this political declaration, that we need to be able to say something important about governance and what we do after this political declaration is arrived at. We need to be able to say something to developing countries who are in many ways in a very different place than rich countries are. We need to be able to say something specifically to them about how we will help them overcome the AMR-related challenges that they face. I spent this morning with a youth group on AMR. We need to be able to talk to the most vulnerable groups within the AMR community. We've heard about it, a person suffering from cancer and other diseases. Younger people, other vulnerable groups need to be brought in. So tomorrow's event really, I think, is going to be a great moment, a great punctuation point. And then the co-facilitators, my colleague from Malta and I, our teams and the excellent colleagues that we have in the WHO quadripartite group are going to try and put all of this together into a clear, short, action-oriented, science-based, commitment-forward, legible document between now and September, with 193 countries agreeing to it.
Simple task that you've set yourself. So we look forward to seeing that document, as I know many in the room do, and we know you'll do a fantastic, concise job with it. Beyond, one of the things that I've heard repeatedly and not sure a perfect answer to is financing, predictable financing. And I'm not going to put you on the hook to come up to how to address that. But what are the most, that's the key one. If you were to move beyond financing, what is the most, what are the most impactful and practical steps we can take right now to address this huge threat for humankind, animal kind, and the environment?
Well, I think you've heard a lot of answers on that today, this evening. There's clearly a market problem that needs to be fixed through various tools, which I think are quite well known. I have to say, and I in this context, as co-facilitator, I'm just the custodian of this process for 193 countries. But I would say for a large number of countries, including my own, kind of the entry point into addressing AMR, and I think Neil from the UK mentioned it and others did as well, are these national action plans. Malin mentioned Sweden's as well. The national action plan is kind of the building block for all countries and how to address AMR. And there's a striking statistic, which is there's a large number, I think it's only 27% of these national action plans are properly funded. So you are immediately confronted with a problem, which is even though you can kind of identify it, most countries now have a national action plan with the right kind of One Health multi-sectoral approach. You've got that, but you've got many countries are facing the problem of simply funding what is a kind of starting point, an entry point into the problem. So I think that really has to be addressed. So it's not just money, but money is involved, financing is involved, international cooperation is involved. And I think that is, for many countries, the first, most obvious point of entry, that this declaration and what we do afterwards in implementing it really has to address head on.
Neil brought up an interesting point and mentioned the Bridgetown Initiative and stretching multilateral development financing to try and meet this need. I was interested to get your take on that. Has that been discussed as a potential solution with the this is something that we're pushing right now in the environment space? Will it work in health and with AMR?
Well, again, in here I'm not speaking as the co-facilitator, but as the permanent representative of Barbados. The answer is yes. The Bridgetown Initiative and initiatives like it make a broad argument, which is you have to sweat or stretch the existing international financial institutions to make them produce more public funds at better terms over longer periods of time. You have to bring in the private sector, and this is obviously particularly relevant in the AMR space, where the private sector is the part of the system that drives innovation. And then you have to ensure that these new instruments, these proceeds, are spread as far as possible to those who need it the most. So certainly Bridgetown and other initiatives like it speak to the need to really change the international financial architecture to address SDG implementation more broadly. Obviously, global health falls under that, as does AMR. But something simple like the World Bank, which is possibly the most important of all of the international financial institutions for developing countries. There are funding opportunities and funding windows within the World Bank, as it's been explained to me, to address AMR. But they're not that visible. They're not that well known. The AMR community, the clinicians, the ministers of health who deal with this, don't really deal with the World Bank. That goes through the Ministry of Finance. So I think one of the things certainly I would like to see come out of this process is an illumination of where the funds are, where the support is, what the mechanisms are, so that those countries, those sectors that need it, can more easily identify the funds that exist within the system. And then, of course, we need to find more funds more broadly.
Great. And on that point, and we only have a couple of minutes left, so this might be a great opportunity. Big day tomorrow. You've got a lot of the people who really care about this issue in the room right now, standing in the back, very engaged, which is so encouraging to see. What can we all do to help in this initiative and in your role with the Zero Draft to make this a successful effort so that everything that you're just talking about, highlighting what financing is available, pushing on national plans, access, to make that a success and as productive as possible? What can we do to help?
Well, I think the leadership of countries and institutions here and their dialogue with capitals is critical. So we have a group of countries, Mexico, there's the UK, there's the group of friends we've mentioned. The connections they have across the globe to policymakers in different parts of the world, north and south, east and west, because the problems are different. These connections are vital. And I would say to you, who are those who know the most about AMR, probably anywhere in the world, come to think of it, is to reach out to your networks in our capitals, across our regions, in our various hemispheres, and make sure, first of all, that there is a suitable level of awareness of the issue itself, a high level of awareness of this process that we're engaged in, and what the potential pitfalls are of not being engaged and the potential benefits of being engaged in this process and in the follow-up afterwards. So I would say I'm the ambassador of Barbados, you guys are the ambassadors of AMR, and really I would encourage you to get out there, spread the word, make sure that the ministries of finance, the ministries of foreign affairs, the ministries of health, who are sending negotiators to these discussions, are aware of what's at stake here. Because sometimes in the kind of wicked problem that this is, it can get lost in the bureaucratic entanglements to these negotiations with strong mandates, well-informed principles back home. I think we will be able to deliver something really useful in September.
That's fantastic. I love that as a closing point. We've talked a lot about the importance of education tonight, and that really brings it home. And also the fact, Ambassador Jackman, that you've anointed us all AMR ambassadors, I enjoy as well. So I thank you very much, Ambassador. Good luck tomorrow. I know we'll do fantastic work. And to all of you for joining us as well as AMR ambassadors. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrew.
Please. Just in closing, before we go, I just wanted to mention a couple of things here. I think I do have some closing thoughts. We have certainly heard a lot of fantastic and enlightening perspectives and shared best practices